Hey, what's going on, y'all? Hey, hey, what's going on, y'all? Back with another one, back with another one. Let's talk about nihilism for a minute. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. Yeah, let's talk about it. I try to get it on here. They said what nihilism is not in order. We're going to talk about it, and then we're going to talk about what it is. And we got the definition, of course, if y'all want to know. It says total rejection of establishment, institutions. And they said number two, anarchy, terrorism, or other revolutionary activity. Three, total absolute destructiveness, especially toward the world at large and including oneself. That's part of it. That's the extreme side of it. Philosophy, extreme form of skepticism, denial of all real existence, of the possibility of an objective basis for truth. That's the fourth. That's the philosophy aspect of it. That's the fourth one. And the fifth one, sometimes initial capital letter principle of the Russian revolutionary group, active in latter of the 19th century, holding that the existing social and political institutions must be destroyed in order to clear the way for a new state of society and imploding, employing extreme measures and including terrorism and assassination. hmm That's the fifth thing. And the sixth thing, annihilation of self or individual consciousness, especially as an aspect of the mystical experience. So that's the basically the noun of nihilism, right? So that's I'm giving you the basic. That's in the dictionary.com. So if you want to look, that's where I got that from. And I try to find it on here. I try to find it on one of my folders. Oh man, I try to political philosophy. Yeah. We're gonna get that real quick. We're gonna get that real quick. Yeah. Dog Josie bark in the background. She act that damn fool. Don't mind that. I don't mind that. Okay. Okay. Marxism. Okay, I try to find it. Philosophy. Branched by doctrine. Branched by doctrine. Smile today. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to find some. I'm trying to find it on the basic philosophies. Shit. Oh, okay. It can be a hassle sometimes, but y'all get the gist. Western philosophies, movement social by individual philosophers. Shit. Yeah, Friedrich Nietzsche, the German, existentialism and nihilism. Yeah, here we go. Here we go. Here we go. What I just read was the definitions, but now we're gonna get into the philosophy. But we're gonna show you. Hold on for a minute. I'm gonna share my screen for a minute. Okay, we're gonna get this right here real quick. This is the big talk. So I'm gonna share this screen. It said what nihilism is not. But we're gonna read I just read y'all the definitions. I read y'all everything, and now we're gonna talk about what we're gonna read and so many things to do is what we're going to deal with the definition. But now we get into the philosophy and the introduction. Like I did this before on several streams, and yes, it'll be in the nihilist playlist. By the way, I believe it will be. We'll see because I think I have a playlist of these things. I want to see what I'm talking about. I wonder if I have a playlist. Oh God. Let's see. Do I have it? I'm trying to see if I have it. If I don't, that's fine. I don't think that's. I don't think I have it. No. We'll just say the philosophy. We'll say that. Okay. It's a philosophical position which argues that beings, especially past and current human existence, it is without objective meaning, purpose, comprehensible truth, or essential value. It asserts that there is no responsibility for proof or the existence of the higher ruler or creator, the existence of a higher ruler or creator, that a true morality does not exist. That's the introduction of nihilism. That's what this believes. The objective secular ethics are impossible. Therefore, life has, in sense, no truth, no action is objectively preferable to any other. The term nihilism was first popularized by a novelist, Ivan Turgevin Turgevin, you know. I'll say Ivan T. I'll say it like that. 1818 to 1883. He was the first, and it was a novelist. That's what they said. Art movements such as Dada and Futurism, and philosophical movements like existentialism, postmodernism, post-structuralism, and deconstructionism have all identified by the commentators as nihilistic. At various times, in various contexts, nihilism differs from skepticism in that skepticism does not reject claims to the truth outright. It only rejects these claims if there is insignificant empirical evidence to support them. That's what it rejects. Okay. That's what it says in nihilism. But niggas want to claim they black pill nihilism, which they're not. Nihilism is mostly associated with the German philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche, although he never actually advocated nihilism as a practical mode of living and was typically quite critical of it. He was typically quite critical. Yeah, most of them are. Not all nihilists are the same. They're some of them are critical of it. He was, however, one of the first philosophers to study nihilism extensively. Nietzsche's criticism of nihilism was mainly on the grounds that it it can become a false belief. Led individuals to discard any hope of meaning in the world, thus in the invent and some compensatory, compensatory of alternative measures of significance. But he also asserts that nihilism is a result of valuing higher and divine or metaphysical things, such as power. They will say God on there, most high power God, right? Power, right? That's what it means. That do not in turn value based on human or earthly things, and that any form of idealism, after being rejected by the idealist, leads to nihilism. According to Nietzsche, it's only once nihilism has overcome that a culture can have a true foundation upon which to thrive. Says Friedrich Nietzsche, the German. It's nihilism. That's his version of nihilism. Everybody's got different versions. Every philosopher is different. They got so many. Similar to Jacques Derrida, who deconstructionism movement is commonly labeled nihilistic, did not himself make the claims often attributed to him. And in fact, deconstructionism can be not as a denial of truth, but as a denial of our ability to know truth. It makes a epistemological claim as an opposed to nihilism's ontological or metaphysical claim. That's what they will say, right? Nihilism is one of the few branches of philosophy that allows for the possibility of absolute nothingness by making three apparent plausible assumptions, but that there are infinite number of objects in the world, that each of these objects are contingent, and that although they exist, they might not have existed, but that the objects are independent. The non existent one thing does not necessitate the existence of anything else. Then the subtraction argument runs that each contingent object can be subtracted from the world one by one until absolutely nothing is left. However, it is not clear that the independence in assumption is justifiable in our practice, whether it be not clear that the independence assumption is justifiable in the practice, whether it be is an imaginative thought of an experiment or in hand scientific or world of particle physics. But subtracting an object from a particular scenario actually does have repercussions, however, small for the world as a whole, but rather nothingness appears to be a limited or asymptote that can be approached but never quite reached. That's what they're saying about the introduction of nihilism and then different peoples and terms and stuff. Okay, then you got the types of nihilism. You got metaphysical nihilism by block theory. This theory is there are no objects and objects does not exist, and therefore empirical reality is illusions, or morally commonly the theory that there might have been no objects at all. So it's like, Immanuel Kant is another one, and then they talk about promenades and Buddha and Hinduism, because they're some of those idolaters religions can be nihilistic too. Nihilism, I'm neutral on it. I think it's an interesting philosophy. It's always have been, but I'm not the extreme nihilist. No, I can be at times on my lower self if I really want to go extreme. We already know what that is. If I don't believe in idolatry, I go there. Partially nihilism, but some philosophers argue that only objects of certain kind have parts. One such as in organicism, and then the view of living beings are composites and objects and the parts. Yeah, you got moral nihilism, and then I talked about happy nihilism once. That's not up here too, but Niccolo Machiavelli deals with the moral nihilism. That you got a bunch of that around. You got the partial on that. Okay, that's explaining it from a philosophy standpoint. Now we're going to read this part. It says what nihilism is not. In order to preserve nihilism as a meaningful concept, it's necessary to distinguish it from pessimism, cynicism, and apathy. There's three parts. Let's read that again. In order to preserve nihilism as a meaningful concept, it is necessary to distinguish it from pessimism, cynicism, and apathy. Right? Let's see how much time we got on the clock. Oh, we making good time on the clock. Okay, okay, we good. I ain't got that much to read. We're just gonna explain it. Nihilism is not unlike the time, according to Augustine, or porn, according to the U.S. Supreme Court, is one of those concepts that we are all pretty sure that we know the meaning of unless someone asks to define it. Nihil means nothing, ism means ideology. Yet when we try to combine these terms, the combination seems to immediately refute itself, as the idea that nihilism is the ideology of nothing appears to be nonsensical. But to say that this means that someone believes in nothing, it is not really much more helpful, as believing in something suggests as there is something to be believed in. There's something to be believed in. But if that is something, it is nothing, then there is not something to be believed in which is cases believing in nothing is again a self-refuting idea. It's a self-refuting idea. That's what they're saying about it. Okay. And this is from the reader multipress.edu. That's where I got this from. That's the source I got it from. That's my source. It is easy, therefore, to fall into the trap of thinking of everything is nihilism, which of course leads to thinking nothing is nihilism. Thus, in order to preserve nihilism as a meaningful concept, it is necessary to distinguish it from concepts that are often associated with it, but are very nonetheless different. Concepts such as pessimism, cynicism. I'm more of a cynic, by the way. That's my weakness right there. Pessimism. I dealt with that as a young age when it was bleak to me, and I grew out of that. I'm more of a cynic in other areas how the world works. And apathy, that's another good one too, and there's some truth to that. And apathy, nihilism versus pessimism. If optimism is hopefulness, then pessimism is hopelessness. To be a pessimist to say, what is the point? Pessimism is often like to a glass is half empty way of seeing the world, which is true, half empty. That's true. But since it's only half empty, this scenario might still be still too hopeful for a pessimist. A better scenario might be that if a pessimist fell in a well, someone offered to rescue him, he'll likely respond, "Why bother?" in the well or out of the well. We're all going to die anyway. In other words, pessimism is a dark, depressing, but it's not nihilism. See, uh, you see, they said, in other words, pessimism is dark, depressing, but it's not nihilism. Interesting take right here with this research that I found. If pessimism fell in the well, like someone's like he said, we're going to die anyway. He said, why bother? And he likely responds, someone offered him to rescue him. He'll likely respond, why bother? That's his answer, right? In the well, out of the well, we are all going to die anyway. I hear that concept all the time in movies, in person, and yeah. In fact, we might even go as far to say that pessimism is the opposite of nihilism. Like nihilism, pessimism could be seen as arising from despair, but the fact of our death, the frustration of our desires, the unintended and consequences of our actions, the tweets of our political leaders, any or all of these could lead us to either nihilism or pessimism. However, where these two roads diverge is over the question of whether we dwell we dwell on our despairs or hide it from it or hide from it. To be with the pessimist to know this that you are with a pessimist, but you can be with a nihilist and have no idea. But indeed, you could yourself be a nihilist and have no idea. There's some truth to that. Most people don't even know that. There's some truth to that. But not everybody's a nihilist, but it depends on if you have a nihilistic thinking, there's some truth to that. Nihilism is a huge study. I'm going to touch on this more and we'll do a part two. Such of the lack of awareness is that the point of nihilism, as nihilism is all about hiding from despair rather than dwelling on it. This is the difference was illustrated by Woody Allen in his movie Annie Hall in 1977. But when his alter ego Alvy Singer has the following exchange with a couple he stops on the streets for advice. And he said, Alvy, and they said the young trendy couple, blah, 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 well, you are, and the young woman, yeah, and they showing you the movie lines. Alvy Singer's a pessimist, but the man and woman are nihilists. What is not illuminating, what is the most illuminating about this scene is that it shows you how a pessimist can reveal the identity of a nihilist, just as might be argued that the pessimist of a German philosopher, Arthur Schopenhauer helped reveal to Nietzsche his own nihilism before the way to confront by Alvey. They are just as happily shallow and happily empty couple. However, when he asks them to explain their happiness, they are no longer shallow and empty, and they are instead a focus to awaken from their the or from their reverie to become self-aware, but it's not that they are happy to reveal their nihilism rather than there's the attempt to explain to a pessimist why they are happy. That reveals that their nihilism on the surface. They are soulmates who have found each other, but surface is all that they are. The surface is all that they are. But the attempt that goes into deeper reveals that there is nothing deeper. It is precisely a pessimist who, when confronted which with such happy couple, would ask why. That reveals their nothingness. But if, as suggested earlier, nihilism and pessimism are opposites, but then nihilism is actually much closer to optimism. To see the glass of half full is to think that we should be happy with what we have rather than focusing on what is missing. But being happy with what we have can also be a way of remaining complacent of ignoring what is a missing so as to avoid having to seek change. Similarly, to believe that everything will work out in the end, that there is always a light at the end of the tunnel. It is to believe that life is a teleological, excuse me for that, teleological, there is some goal or purpose where they say where power, they say God and justice, or God and justice, I mean power and justice. That's what that means. invisibly behind what is we experience, but it is believed that the existence of our superhuman goals and superhuman purposes, that we've lost sight of human goals, human purposes, and likewise we elevate someone like a Martin Luther King, MLK Jr., right, to the statement of the saint or a prophet. We see him more than a mere mortal, but thus freeing ourselves from the responsibility of trying to um, emulate him, since we seemingly have to be complacent, and leads us wait for something that the good to happen for someone else to make something good happen. But then optimism leads us to do nothing. In other words, it is not pessimism, but optimism that is similar to nihilism. And then you got nihilism versus cynics in ancient Greece. Let's see how much of the read I got, but I ain't got much time. But oh shit, get off that. And we're gonna stop it right here. We're gonna talk about the rest of the cynicism of this right here, dog like whatever. And talking about ancient Greece and all that. We'll discuss this. We'll do a part two to this. So we definition and everything. We're gonna talk about cynicism, and then we're gonna also talk about apathy. We'll talk about it. We got the first part about pessimism. So hope y'all enjoy this. And we'll do a part two of this, and we're gonna get into it, and then we'll look up the stuff uh next Wednesday, and then just we're gonna get it down to the science. But yeah, that's all I got. So yeah, basically we learned the first part of nihilism about pessimism. It's more like optimism, but we'll get into cynicism and apathy next week. We'll do a part two, and then we're gonna get that squared away and things like that. So with that, until next time, the people of Israel pray to the east, to the Most High Yah and His blessings. Shalom to you and the guests, of course, the Gentiles, of course. Shalom to you as well. Until next time. We'll do a part two to this. So we're going to explain for these dummies out here about nihilism that there's different ways of looking at it. Is it a good philosophy? It's okay. I'm neutral on it, but it's been thrown around in these certain spaces. So with that, I'm signing off and I'm out.